Before telling a Sufi story, there's a need to remind you of a confession or a secret that was told several weeks ago. And that confession or secret is what many of you already know from these many years of being together. And that is that there's no teaching here. But the purpose of the many, many stories from different persuasions that have been told and will be told are to break down the conditioning of what it is that we believe the meaning of this or that is, so that we have the possibility to experience for ourselves and find the deep truth for ourselves. Only then can we go out and speak truth and bring change. But there's also another confession that has to be made here. And that is, although there's no purpose, I stand at the door of the tavern and invite all of you in to become God-drunken lovers, such as myself. There were 3 dervishes, one from the north, one from the east, and one from the west. And each of them had the deep longing to know truth, deep truth. And the first dervish, who was named Yak, he contemplated until his head hurt. And the second dervish, who was named Doh, he stood on his head until his feet hurt. And the third dervish, who was named See, he read the books until his nose bled. But none of them had reached the deep truth that they were so avidly seeking. So it so happened that Yak, Doh and See came together, and they decided that if they pooled their different ways of seeking, that they might attain their goal. So they went to a secret place, and each of them practiced in their own way for 40 days and 40 nights. And after that time, a great thing happened. An apparition, a head, arose out of the floor in between them. They were shocked. And Yak said, "Oh, you must be Kadir, the great teacher." And the second said, No, he's Kutub, the teacher of the age." "No," said the third, See, "he's an Abdul, one of the changed ones." And the voice of the head with white hair, shining deep eyes, said, "No, I'm none of these, but I am what you think that I am. And you are all seeking deep truth. And have you not read that there are as many ways to truth as there are the hearts of men?" But looking at Yak, he said, "Your path is to go to the land of fools." And then turning his eyes to Doh, he said, "And you must. What must? What must the third, the second, and the third do? You must go to the land of fools. You must. And you must. Close your eyes a moment and imagine you have this head with its white hair in front of you. Those eyes are on you. The first dervish has already been told. What is it that's being told to the second dervish and the third? I'll tell you. To the second dervish, the voice in the head said, you must seek the magic mirror. And to the third, let the head cast its eyes on you. I'll tell you. The third dervish was told, you must seek the jinn, the demon of the whirlpool. So the head disappeared back into the earth, and the three, Yak, Doh and See, discussed what it was that they'd been told to do. And then they set out. Yak Baba, as he was called, set out to seek the land of fools. And instead of asking everywhere, as he would normally do, is there a teacher here? Is there wisdom here? He asked, where can I find the land of fools? And eventually, after some long while, he was pointed in the direction. So he found himself in the land of fools, and he knew he was there because the first person he met on the road was an old woman carrying a door on her back. And Yak Baba asked her, why are you carrying that door on your back? And she said, well, when my husband left for work this morning, he said, there's a lot of valuables in this house. Don't let anyone pass the door. So I'm carrying the door around with me so no one can get in. So Yak Baba said, well, would you like me to tell you how I can resolve this for you? Oh, no. She said, but if you can tell me how I can make this door lighter, I'd be happy. He said, well, I can't do that. So they parted their ways. And he hadn't gone too much further down the road when he came across a group of people who were standing, looking totally panic-stricken and pointing in the middle of the paddock because there was a monster. It was a great big watermelon. And they were all afraid. And Yak Baba said, well, would you like me to tell you how you can... No, but if you can kill the monster, that would be good, we'd be very happy. So Yak Baba went off armed with a knife and he chopped open the watermelon and ate it. Well, they were just horrified that this being was not only killing but drinking the blood of the monster, so they were terribly and horribly afraid of him. But of course, Yak Baba realized that this was really the land of falls, and if he really wanted to be able to do anything in the land of falls, the only way he was going to be able to do it was to act the fall himself. So for many years he learned the language of the way of falls, and in the process he was able to teach them a thing or two, and in that process he did learn deep truth. Well, that was Yak Baba, but there's Doh Agha, as he was called. And Doh Agha was on his quest to find the magic mirror. Well, he went everywhere seeking this, asking people where he could find the magic mirror, but no one knew. But in his travels, a certain knowing arose in him. So he kind of found his way there without really being pointed in the direction of it. And he found that it was hanging in a well, on what could be said was like a spider's thread. But when he looked, he found that the mirror was not whole. It was just a shard, because this mirror, he intuited, was a mirror that was made up by the concentration of the minds of people. But people's minds were so distracted, there was hardly enough concentration to make the mirror whole. So all he had when he pulled up the string was a small shard. But he looked in that shard, and he did. He found deep truth. And he stayed around for some long while, teaching the knowledge that came and inevitably comes from deep truth. And really people didn't get what he was talking about, but he had it anyway. But then there's See Kalada, as he was called, and he went off to find the jinn of the whirlpool. So he went everywhere, asking where it was to be found. But this jinn, this demon, is very elusive, because he keeps changing faces all the time. Well, we know about that very well. So he went here and there, trying to find this jinn, to no avail. But finally he came to a town, and he asked the same question. Can you tell me where I can find the jinn of the whirlpool? Oh, they said, we don't know anything about jinns, but this place is called Whirlpool. So he rejoiced. Yes, I found it. I'm not moving from here until I meet the jinn. And you know how these things are. As soon as he stopped still, the jinn came to him and said, oh, I believe you've been looking for me. What do you want? And Doh Kalada said, well, I believe that you can lead me to deep truth. And the jinn said, yes, you've had a very rough and long path, but if you sing this song and chant this and do that, then you'll learn deep truth. So this is what he did. See, Kalada started to practice, and he was so diligent and one-pointed and concentrated in his practices that people started to gather around and kind of copy what he was doing, because he was so dedicated. And obviously there was something there that they wished they could too attain. And See Kalada spent that time after his practices, when he did in fact gain deep truth, continuing those practices so people could follow him But really, nothing really much happened with those people. But you could say that they all came together at a certain time, in a certain place. Perhaps we can imagine where they all decided that though they had reached deep truth, that they could not impart or even share their deep truths with anyone. And they decided it was kind of like a man being caught on a great river, being swept along and seeing someone on the bank being chased by a leopard, but being absolutely powerless to do anything about it. If this story has made you confused, it's good. If it's made you addled, that's even better. Because that means you're standing outside the door of the tavern. But just for the sake of it, we could ask, because we know the nature of stories, we know the process of taking in whatever it is as an experience and letting it flow down the sides of the spine and up the column of. There's nothing that can stop this process. Just like what goes in has to come out. Transformed, yes. So the question can be asked, what is it that rises up for you out of this story?
Truth is for the individual. It's in this story it's saying the truth is for the individual, and you have to embody that so others can see it. And then if they choose to follow, they will, but whether they'll get it or not is another matter.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's a bit like they had to embrace the opposite of where they were looking.
Yes.
Look at the opposite.
Yes. So we do see the process that has to occur for us to dismantle what it is, our belief systems, our conditioning in whatever form it takes, so that we can experience for ourselves. Only then is it truth. Otherwise it's just a belief or a teaching, isn't it?
Well, they also felt that individually they couldn't achieve what they wanted, but together they could.
Absolutely, there's some very deep meanings in the levels of this story. There's some very deep meanings in the levels of this story, as there always are in these Sufi tales. So let it do its work in its own way, because they do work like a divine acid to burn away our conditioned thinking. What's left for us then is the experience of what it is. Let's get drunk together, it's much easier to